Hello everyone. Today I will present a paper published in 2025 titled Enhancing Lab Use and Land Cover Classification with Deep Learning-Based Satellite Imagery Segmentation. I chose this paper for two main reasons. First, this paper focuses on land using and land cover classification from satellite imagery, which is closely related to remote sensing image recognition. Second, it presents a relatively complete research workflow, including satellite image dataset construction, label me annotation, mask generation, deep learning model training, model comparison, and performance evaluation. Therefore, this paper is used not only for understanding land cover classification, but also for learning the general workflow of remote sensing semantic segmentation. This paper focuses on using deep learning-based semantic segmentation to classify land use and land cover from satellite images. In simple terms, the input is a satellite image and the output is a pixel-level land cover map, where each pixel is classified as agricultural land, forest, water, road built-up area, and so on. My presentation is divided into these 5 parts. First, let's look at the backbone. LULC means land use and land cover. Land cover refers to what physical covers the Earth's surface, such as forest, water bodies, grassland, and built-up areas. Land use focuses more on how much humans use the land, such as farmland, residential land areas, or industrial areas. LULC classification is important for agricultural monitoring, forestry, urban planning, environmental management, and climate change analysis. Compared with field service, satellite imagery can provide large-scale and continuous observation of the land surface. The paper also emphasizes the importance of satellite image segmentation for agriculture, forestry, urban planning, and climate-related applications. The main problem addressed in this paper is that traditional land cover mapping can be inefficient and error-prone in complex environments. For example, grassland, shrubland, and agricultural land may look similar in satellite images because of similar color or texture. If we rely on manual interpretation, the process can be time-consuming, and different people may make different judgments. Therefore, the authors use deep learning-based semantic segmentation. Semantic segmentation doesn't assign a label to the whole image. Instead, it classifies every pixel in the image. The objective of the paper is to compare several deep learning models and identify the most effective model combination of 8-class LULC segmentation. second part is about the dataset and annotation. The study area is Ethiopia. The authors select Ethiopia because it has diverse terrain and complex land cover patterns, including agricultural land, forest, grassland, roads, and so on. The data results include these six. For this presentation, we don't need to explain every band or spatial resolution in detail. The key point is high-resolution satellite images are the core data for detailed semantic segmentation, while medium or low-resolution data can provide additional spectral, temporal, or contextual information. The authors divided land cover into 8 classes: forest, grassland, agricultural land, road, water body, shrubland, built-up areas, and others. Some classes are relatively easy to distinguish, such as water bodies and roads. However, some classes can be easily confused, especially grassland, shrubland, and agricultural land, under different season or image conditions. These vegetation-related classes may have similar color or textures. Therefore, this paper is not a simple binary classification task. It's a multi-class semantic segmentation task. This slide shows one of the most important parts of the paper: how the data was constructed. The author used label me for text-level annotation. In practice, they manually outlined different land cover regions with phylogenized and assigned class labels such as forest, agricultural land, road, or water bodies. After annotation, label me generates JSON and annotation fields. These fields record the phylogen coordinates and class names. However, deep learning models usually can't directly use JSON fields for training, so the author used Python scripts to convert the JSON fields into ground truth masks. A mask can be understood as the correct answer for model training. The satellite image is the input, and mask is the label. Finally, each image can and its corresponding mask form an image mask pair for semantic segmentation training. After annotation, the author performed data pre-processing. First, they use patch extraction. High-resolution satellite images are usually too large to be directly fed into deep learning models. Therefore, the author cropped large images into smaller patches. Then, the pixel values were normalized to the range from 0 to 1, which makes model training more stable. The labels were also converted into one-hot encoding, which means class labels were transformed into a numerical format that the model can process. Finally, the dataset was split into 80% training, 10% validation, and 10% testing. The third part is methodology. This paper compares 4 types of semantic segmentation models. The first one is UNet. UNet is a classical encoder-decoder model. It first extracts image features, then gradually recovers spatial resolution, and finally outputs the segmentation result. The second model is LinkNet. It is also based on an encoder-recorder structure, but it is more lightweight and computationally efficient. The third model is DeepLab v3+. Its main strength is capturing multi-score contextual information. This is important for satellite images because land cover objects have a very different size. For example, roads are narrow, while forests and agricultural fields can be large. The fourth model is AE DeepLab v3+, which means Attention Enhanced DeepLab v3+. It adds an attention mechanism to DeepLab v3+, so that the model can focus more on useful features. In addition, the authors compare different backbones. The most important model in this paper is AE DeepLab v3+. It can be simply understood as DeepLab v3+ SE attention blocks. SE stands for squeeze and excitation, which is channel attention mechanism. In simple terms, satellite image condition many types of information, such as color, texture, shape, boundaries, and spatial relationships. However, not all features are equally important. SE attention helps the model emphasize important features and suppress less useful ones. For example, when identifying water bodies, color and continuous regions may be important. When identifying rules, thin linear structures may be important. When identifying agricultural land, field texture and boundaries may be more important. Therefore, AE DeepLab 3+ combines the multi-score contextual ability of DeepLab v3+ with the feature selection ability of attention mechanism. The fourth part is result and destruction. From the overall model comparison, UNet with exception achieved a DICE score of 85.7. LinkNet with ResNet 152 achieved 86.7. DeepLab v3+ with exception improved the DICE score to 90.6. The best performing model was AE Deep Lab 3 Plus with exception, achieving a dice score of 91.9 and an accuracy of 92.1. This result suggests that Deep Lab 3 Plus based models generally outperform UNet and LinkNet. It also shows that adding an attention mechanism further improves performance. Why does exception work well? The paper is plain that exception uses depth-wise separable convolutions, which can be extra effective features while maintaining computational efficiency. The SE attention mechanism further strengthens feature selection. So the key conclusion of this slide is that AE Deep Lab V3 Plus with exception is the best overall model, a model combination in this paper. Besides the overall comparison, the authors also analyzed the performance for each land cover class. For AE Deep Lab 3 Plus, with exception, water bodies achieved the best performance with a dice score of 97. Agricultural land also performed very well with a dice score of 95.2. Built-up areas reached 94 and forest reaches 92. However, grassland, shrubland, and the others category had relatively lower scores. Grassland and shrubland both achieved 87.5, while others achieved 85.1. This result is understandable. Water bodies always have clear color and boundary features. Agricultural land usually has recognizable texture and spatial patterns. Built-up areas also have relatively clear shapes. In contrast, grassland, shrubland, and others may have unclear boundaries and high internal variation, making them more difficult to classify. Therefore, although the best model performs well overall, visually similar and ambiguous land cover classes remain challenging. To conclude, this paper demonstrates the deep learning-based semantic segmentation is effective for land use and land cover classification. Among the tested model, AE Deep Lab 3 Plus, with exception, achieves the best performance, with an overall accuracy of about 92% and a dice score around 91% to 92%. In terms of class-wise performance, water bodies, agricultural land, built-up areas, and forests were classified relatively well. However, visually similar classes with unclear boundaries, such as grassland, shrubland, and others, remain more challenging. In addition, the authors use SIGGRAD CAM++ and SIGSCORE CAM for explainable AI analysis. This means that the paper doesn't only focus on whether the model performs well, but also tries to understand which regions the model focuses on when making predictions. This paper is not the most difficult heuristic paper, but is very useful for understand how a complete applied study in satellite image segmentation can be conducted. That's all. Thank you, everyone.